So she's still punching buttons. We're rolling. Good evening. Good to have most of us here tonight. Could we have some roll call, please, Robin?
Commissioner Hensick. Chair Stevens.
Here.
Commissioner Slaughter. Hammond. Secretary Roughton.
Here.
Vice Chair Bockert.
Present.
Commissioner Rubis.
Here.
It's like we're missing our alternate quarterneck. Commission Liaison Broyles. Here. Councilmember Liaison Nyon is not here, and Councilmember Liaison Rambo.
Here.
And we're missing our Student Task Force Liaison, but we do have a quorum.
Thank you. Well, as we begin our deliberations this evening, I hope you all had a really meaningful Memorial Day, which took us right into Flag Day. We decorate for the holidays at our house. And so when I decorate for Memorial Day, it's up all the way through the middle of July. So that's always kind of nice. The flag at our house was waving in the breeze, as it does most days, depending on the weather. It was encouraging to see the number of flags flying in honor of our country and its people. I just want to bring to mind the Daughters of the American Revolution and their mission, which includes historic preservation, and how they have honored our Historic Preservation Commission and the Route 66 Student Task Force with the national awards that were presented by them to us. I'm so proud of what has been preserved here in our city, both before any of us were part of the commission, during our tenure, and I know will continue on in the future. One just needs to take another glance at our time capsule to bring that all to mind. Now is time to begin our meeting, but please stand now. And Rob, would you please lead the Pledge of Allegiance this evening? To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Need to go into the minutes from the May 25th meeting. Did anyone see anything that was amiss or left out? I did not find any problems myself, but can miss things too. Hearing none, we will approve them by general consent. Do we have any public comments this evening, Robin?
Madam Chair, we do have one attendee. They are attending via Zoom. If that attendee would like to speak at this time during our public comment, please use the raise hand feature and we will promote you. Okay, I do not see a raised hand feature. However, we also have attendees in our audience. No public comment there either. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We'll go on into old business then. And student liaison update, since Nolan is not here, do we have an update?
No, we do not. Nolan did join us on our field trip though,
Yes, he did.
earlier this week.
That was good to see him there. So we will move on to the historic survey of properties.
Madam Chair, with your permission, may we move this item a little later in the
Sure.
agenda? I have a presenter who is stuck in traffic.
That's not unusual. So we'll go on then to the changes to the HPC composition. And I believe you are presenting on that.
Yes, I will start the presentation on that this evening. So Madam Chair, members of the commission, a few meetings ago, we proposed some changes to this commission in the form of adding youth liaisons or youth members. At that time, we were directed to proceed forward by this commission, and we appeared to receive widespread support for that endeavor. So the department did conduct additional research, and what we found is that there is a push across the nation to add youth members to commission activities and other boards in various states. However, we did not see too many instances where those youth members were given an official vote. And that's largely to do with with concerns that were expressed by our own city attorney, in that given that especially historic preservation commissions deal with issues involving property rights and sometimes restricting those with historic preservation activities, it does set this commission up periodically to be sued. And in the case of a younger member, that would not be a good thing for them because they don't have that standing. So we decided to proceed forward with proposing the addition of up to 2 youth members. But however, we're suggesting that we give them an honorary vote instead of an official vote during commission meetings, which would be recorded in the commission minutes. And we have draft language in your bylaws, but would not be included in the official vote. So they would be considered a non-voting member. So some highlights for you to consider. We are proposing that youth members be 12 years of age, but under 18 at the time of appointment. So we're thinking kind of 8th grade through 12th grade. Youth members must be residents of Wildwood. We did look into the language pretty heavily, and I believe it's Missouri State Constitution. If they're going to serve on our commission, they must be residents of the city. Youth members will serve a 1-year term, but may serve for a total of 3 years upon reappointment. Youth members will apply for the position via an application process administered by the Department of Planning, and will be appointed by a majority vote of this commission. Those youth members would then be presented to City Council for recognition and acceptance upon that appointment. So that is what we're proposing in terms of youth members. However, while we are revisiting these changes to the commission's composition, we thought we would propose a few other items as well. And one of those items is to potentially extend voting rights to our commission liaisons. As you know, fairly recently, we extended those voting rights to our council liaisons. And at the time, we kind of briefly talked about whether or not they should be extended to our commission liaisons as well. So we're going to go ahead and put that up for your consideration this evening. And then finally, we would like, and this didn't generate from the department, but we were actually approached by a city council member and received support from our chair to consider an emeritus advisor position on the commission. And basically, the idea is that particularly in historic preservation, where historical knowledge is just so important, we're in jeopardy of losing some of that knowledge and expertise when our members term out of the commission. And in fact, many of our Historic Preservation Commission members serve like the entire 6 years. So an emeritus advisor position would allow one former commissioner with exceptional knowledge, qualifications, and experience, but who has reached their term limit, has served their full 6 years, to be appointed to the commission as a non-voting advisor. And this would be appointed through a majority vote of this commission. And right now, we have here that we're proposing a term of 3 years, though, we are certainly open to other options on that as well. The idea this evening is to provide you with draft legislation for you to consider, to give us a point of discussion. But our plan as a department is to take your suggestions, take your feedback, and work with our city attorney to produce a final draft for the next meeting. So this evening, do not think that what you see before you is necessarily, done and final. The details can still be tweaked and talked about and considered. But we did want to provide us a basis for tonight's discussion. So if you were to want to go forward with one or more of these components, just note that per the bylaws, the HPC bylaws may be voted on by this commission after 2 reviews of them. You would most likely pass it contingent on the passage of a companion ordinance amendment, if that's what were to occur. Then the recommendation from this commission would be presented to City Council at its work session. And then if it was recommended to move forward, or if it was supported, then it would be taken to City Council and introduced as legislation. So that's essentially the process for moving us forward from this discussion. So with that, I will conclude, unless Director Vunich would like to add.
Thanks. So first of all, by no fault of Ms. Keefe, you received a lot of this information this week. And for the most part, that was a relationship between the Director of Planning, myself, and the City Attorney. We were working on getting the opinion from the City Attorney about the youth liaison, and that took a little longer based upon the research that was done by the City Attorney and his firm. So that is part of the reason we're just wanting input tonight, not action, so that we can refine this based upon just the short term or limited time the department had it in hand, and then certainly more so since you've received it. There may be, and I don't know if this is the case, but 11 members of the commission at some point in the future if you endorse all of these changes. I don't think that is a problem. We have 10 members on our Planning and Zoning Commission. We have 16 members plus the mayor on our city council, so to speak. I don't think 11 is too many. So I don't feel like, is it unwieldy? Is it a problem for city team members? No. 11 is relatively manageable, and we do it all the time. The other thing I wanted to mention is in Wildwood, it's very unusual. Most communities, most municipalities, states, for that fact, have term limits on elected officials. Our charter extends that to appointed officials like you. And so we do have a limited amount of time to meet you. You have a limited amount of time to know us, and then we all work together to basically draw our knowledge level up as we work through different projects, opportunities, and issues. And that's why I think the emeritus position is really critical, because we are unusual. We basically tell our volunteers thanks, but after 2 terms, there's really not much we can do. And I think after you've been with us 6 years or 3 years and you choose not to proceed forward for whatever reason, but you have a great deal of knowledge, we just don't want to lose that. So that's part of it as well. And the only other thing I would say, and it's a little contrary to what was presented, is I would wait on any action relative to the bylaws until the ordinances are changed. That way we're consistent from the start instead of being inconsistent with the current regulations. I think it's best that we focus on the ordinance, then take it to city council, then come back and make the bylaws consistent with the adopted ordinance language. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Discussion, Jim.
So at this moment, the way we have it drafted in the language is that this commission by majority vote would appoint the emeritus advisor position. So it would be very, I think, very similar to how we appoint commission liaisons. So no, the mayor would not be involved. However, as it is currently written, and we may want to rethink it because our chair had some pretty astute observations that she offered the department earlier this week after reviewing the packet. We may want to reconsider, the length of term and how that's presented currently. And I don't know if, Joe, did you want to add to that?
Yes.
Yes. That is correct.
Well, I'll defer to Council Member Rambo, but I will tell you that, and as you know from attending some of the meetings, there's two components to a city council agenda, the work session and then the regular session. Almost all of your recommendations or major undertakings, Ms. Keefe and I provide those to city council in the work session. Some are for information and are only discussed if a council member brings up the matter. Some are for action. For example, when Patter and Ives contract was considered by the commission and ultimately agreed upon to proceed forward, that was for a 4-action item in work session, which the department then seeks authorization to prepare legislation. Then at the next meeting, it moves to regular session. I'll defer to Councilmember Rambo if you'd like to add anything about the process.
No, you're better at the process stuff than I am anyway, Joe, but that's how it's supposed to work. I think it can just automatically show up. Yes, it is. Can't you hear me? Oh, okay. All right. Well, just think. Yeah, so I don't know if I need to repeat that, but I think it will happen as a matter of course. And so we don't have to intervene further to make sure that it shows up on the agenda. At least I don't have to intervene. They'll just do it.
I noticed that the difference between the youth member and the emeritus, there's nothing about the youth member having to be before the mayor, where the advisor is. It said that the youth member can be appointed to serve 1 year and then reappointed, but it doesn't say anything about it being by the city council action, but the emeritus does. Is that?
So the way it reads currently is the youth member would be appointed by this commission, and then that would be taken to city council for acknowledgement and recognition of that appointment. And I think the logic was that because the youth members are non-voting members, they aren't necessarily considered like full members of this commission to where they would need to go through that same process. The way we currently have the emeritus advisor position is that the commission could appoint the first time around, and then if at the end of the term we wanted to reappoint, it would need to go before city council at that time. However, our chair had some suggestions that I think are worth hearing. Maybe if you want to share them.
Hope I remember what I said. But I wondered, because I looked at the roster of the current commission, And in 24, we lose 4 people. That's a hunk of people off of the commission. And so I was wondering, looking to the future, do we want to begin with a 3-year term for the advisor? Or because we only are going to have one advisor. And so we may want to have a shorter term so that the expertise of all the former people can be attended to. But as also was pointed out to me, is that I can, as chair, can call on a former person to give some expertise advice. So it's, but 3-year term sometimes is a long commitment after you've been on for 6 years. And most people recently anyway, have, when they've termed out, they've been on for 6 years. So it's just something to think about.
And you also made the astute observation that our commission liaisons are 1-year terms and our council member liaisons are 1-year terms. Our youth members are going to be 1-year
Right.
terms. So maybe for the consistency, if nothing else. But I do think
Because they
there's more
can be
reasons.
reappointed.
Yes, they can be reappointed. So just something for this commission to consider this evening and direct the department on.
Any other questions or comments? Yes, Rob.
Yeah, hopefully you can hear me better now. Just trying to summarize this discussion. I think if anybody that gives their time and sits up here on this dais is entitled to vote, that's just my personal opinion. I think we almost invariably reach consensus anyway, so it's really not a big deal to have, more voting members. I'm perfectly comfortable with it. I think more folks in general would not be a burden for us. And I agree with Chair Stevens completely on the maybe we should look at a shorter term. Maybe it ought to be, a 1 or 2 year term, renewable, and because situations change, especially when you get to our ages. And 3 years is a long commitment to have to make. And I would suggest that maybe we start with 1, but I would be perfectly comfortable to your suggestion that we're losing a lot of expertise. It'd be fine if we could just fill these chairs. I mean, I don't see a problem with that unless there's some sort of administrative problem with it, potentially having more than one emeritus member. So that's my spiel.
Madam
Yes,
Chair.
Elizabeth. You're a long ways over there.
Gracious document. And it's a little bit disconcerting. It's been the kind of duty.
This would take care of that.
Do we need to make the emeritus position a position, or do we make it very straightforward that anybody, past members who wants to attend a meeting can come and participate?
That's an interesting idea.
And Madam Chair, that's what I was going to mention, is that I'll be the first to admit, when I was thinking of the emeritus position, I think Ms. Keefe and I were kind of thinking the same thing. We thought of Mr. Scott. Obviously, his background in architecture, his years of residence in the city, it's a perfect fit. And for the most part, I think we wrote the language with that in mind. What I will tell you, though, is there's a long list of people that have served on the Historic Preservation Commission, many of them that were as equal in many ways as Mr. Scott, and we could reach back out to them. Because again, they're still covered by that term limit as it's been applied by Mayor Boland. So there's a wealth of people out there that we can certainly tap into their resources and have them participate. So I see it not only, as I said, with a certain amount of, I'd like Mr. Scott to be up there, but also in the future, there could be a whole lot of different people helping us as we do our day-to-day duties and responsibilities as the commission.
One more question about the youth position. What happens at the end of a year?
At the end of the year, I think we would need to they would either need to reapply, and this might just be something administratively we have to figure out, but they would need to be reappointed then by this commission and go through that same process.
And then reappointment would include a vote.
Yes,
I mean,
that is
everybody-
correct.
Everybody have volunteer. Great. Unfortunately, if we go a whole year and somebody doesn't show up and participate, we should have a say in whether they continue.
That is correct. Every time they were up for reappointment, this commission would need to make that choice.
Sounds good.
Mr. Rout, I would add, a lot of the mechanics of the process probably won't show up in the regulations, but we'll address them in the bylaws. And you'll all have an opportunity to assist in crafting those bylaws to make sure we get what you want.
There's someone in the peanut gallery out there who I think wants to speak.
Sorry, if I may,
Please do.
I feel this, you would be selecting an emeritus advisor. I'd like to differ from Rob. I don't think he should have a vote. He's the advisor. And he would advise you and hopefully influence your vote. But I think you are the commissioners and the vote should come from you. So I don't think he should have the vote. I think a 1-year term and then have at least a choice then, would he want to continue? Or maybe you have somebody else who wants a position, and then it would be up to you to decide who. But I think it should be, you should feel that you can pick the best person to advise you. And I think that person is an advisor and should not have a vote.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pardon me? We've just been advised. Okay. Anyone else on this topic?
Chair Stevens, I just got a text saying, quote, "Your mic is on, but many members are not using. Can you remind them? I can't hear half of them." So remember to switch your mics on when you're talking.
Have it up close. Gina, it wasn't even me complaining I couldn't hear. Thank you, Rob.
Okay, so to summarize, I think it seems like the majority of comments have to do with the emeritus advisor position. And we're looking at potentially a 1-year term, and maybe even having more of a blanket. Anyone who's been a former commissioner has the privilege of participation. So something to consider. It sounds like generally everybody is comfortable with what we have for youth members. Is there anything that we want to alter for youth members? No?
I didn't find it.
Okay, and then we're all comfortable with extending the vote to our commission liaisons.
How will we get these candidates?
Through an application process administered by the department. And of course, we would be tapping into our existing relationships as well as others, because we would want to make sure to reach out beyond Rockwood, but to our private schools and our homeschooled students as well. But we've made a lot of those contacts this year, just in the trial and error of the student task force.
since it was a long time ago, when does middle school and high school break? What year? Ninth grade or eighth grade?
At the end of eighth grade.
Eighth
At
grade.
the end of eighth grade.
End of eighth grade, yeah, so.
High school is 9 through
High
12.
school is 9 through
Okay.
12,
And high school's not, that's my point. High school's 9 through 12.
yes.
And we're saying 12-year-olds can participate. If you said ninth graders can participate, how old are they?
Generally 15.
15.
So I'm thinking more in that direction.
More in the high school direction,
Yes.
okay. You agree?
I agree.
Yeah.
What grade was Nolan, what did he just finish?
Nolan was in 7th grade.
That's what I thought.
Yep.
Nolan is exceptional.
Yes, he is. He very much is.
He did want to do it, yes, very much. Okay, so I'm sensing that everyone's in agreement that we should move to a high school age range then for, we might just say high school student or try to determine those age ranges, but yes, we'll move in that direction. Okay. Well, if there are no more comments, then we will take that feedback and have that conversation with our city attorney and city leadership and come back with a final draft.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think you are up next again with the history book update.
Madam Chair, if I may, if we can circle back now to that
Okay, great.
previous agenda item.
All right.
I'm going to promote Mr. Allen, but then I'm going to give him a short introduction before he.
Okay,
presents.
fine.
All right, Madam Chair, members of the commission, tonight we have Michael Allen joining us, who is Director and Architectural Historian for the Preservation Research Office. He is also on the faculty at Washington University in St. Louis, where he is Senior Lecturer in Architecture and Landscape Architecture and Lecturer in American Culture Studies. He is our selected consultant for our historic building survey update. And tonight he is here to introduce himself to you, to present a little bit on what to expect over the next few months and answer any questions that you might have. Thank you. And he is joining us via Zoom.
All right, can everyone hear me? I'm coming in clear, good.
We're not hearing you.
You're not hearing me. Testing. Testing. Good? Am I here?
Yes, you were good.
Try
Okay,
again.
great. All right, greetings, commissioners. It's good to be back. Last time I spoke to you on landscape preservation, we were all virtual. This time it's just me, so we've made some progress in the world. I just wanted to briefly just summarize the nature of the work of this cultural resources survey. Although given the commitment of Wildwood to expanding its inventory, I'm sure most commissioners are familiar with previous phases. In this phase, we would inventory buildings built between 1948 and 1950. That includes 43 properties total. Inventory work would generate the Missouri State Historic Preservation Office inventory form. And that would entail taking at least one photograph of the main elevation of each property, additional photographs of exteriors as can be obtained from the right-of-way, public right-of-way, or with access of the permission of the owner. You know, there might be exceptional properties we might want to make contact and get a better look. There might be some properties where we can't see any of this from the public right-of-way, and The City of Wildwood staff will assist me so that we do get those photographs. Also, the forms will include date of construction of each building, any information on architects, builders, or significant associations using real property records, building permit records in St. Louis County, land, chain of title records, newspapers, and other archival sources. At the end of all of this work, I will prepare a report on survey activities, methods, and findings that would also include any recommendations for local landmark or National Register of Historic Places eligibility. Of course, no obligation comes with those, but that's the, I guess the point of all this work is to know what could be eligible. I'm here tonight virtually, hope to present that report in person, also available for any other meetings of the commission during the duration of the work. We're hoping to make brisk pace and complete this work by the end of October this year. So it won't be very long before you see me again if I don't come back before then. I think that's the nutshell version. Happy to take questions.
Does anyone have any questions or comments?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
if I may, welcome, Mr. Allen. Good to see you again. And I have some good news. Ms. Keefe took the initiative and completed the contract with Mr. Allen. Mr. Allen has signed it, and it's on our interim city administrator's desk. So I think by tomorrow we'll have a contract if all is well and we can get started. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
Great.
Anyone else? Well, it's good to meet you this evening, sir, and we'll look forward to that report and see what we come up with. Thank you
Definitely.
so much.
Yep. If you see a vintage white Volvo sedan cruising around Wildwood this summer, that's me. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. I'll be out and I'll be in touch.
All right. Bye.
So now, Robin, we're back to you for the history book.
And as she walks to the podium, we actually have a book.
So big news after, what has it been? 9 years? 8 years. Okay. After 8 years, we have a paperback proof of the Wildwood History Book. It is now tangible. And I'm excited to report, it was funny, I reached out to Ms. Von Gruben, the book's primary author, and she was like, oh, well, you know, due to my schedule, I'll be by tomorrow morning to pick it up. And then just like an hour later, she calls me back and she says, yeah, I'll be there in 7 minutes. And then she showed up and oh my gosh, she was definitely teary-eyed. She promised me that she was not crying all her tears, that she would save some for the unboxing of the final published books for PR purposes. But it was a big day and our graphic designer came out as well. Joe was up there giving everyone congratulations. And it was just a real feel good moment. We have applied for the official copyright. The book has an IBSN number. It has a Library of Congress control number. So all of those details have been put together. The hardcover book should be formatted very shortly. It was just a case of margins, but that we can order those proofs as well. And then that will be an upgraded premium color interior. This is the standard color interior. So when you're taking a look at it, you can keep that in mind. But we do have a book and that means that means we are good to go for Celebrate Wildwood.
You weren't lying after all.
I wasn't lying. I wasn't giving you fibs. It was that project schedule. I just had to do the project schedule. but yes, we've been so excited that I've been reaching out to the Missouri Historical Society, the Missouri Civil War Museum, our Rockwood School District Social Studies curriculum coordinator, and everyone I could find, our county historian, to hopefully give us some comments for PR of the book. The Missouri Historical Society has said that they'll review the published version and potentially get some blurb in the Missouri Historical Review. So that's exciting. But yes, if this commission has any recommendations of who else to contact, I'd certainly love them at this time. Tonight would be great because I probably need to contact them in the next week to get their comments. Let's see, what else did I have under this item? Oh yes, we did meet with Ms. Debbie Ward of Silver Tablet Marketing, and she will be meeting with our book launch planning committee tomorrow morning. So we'll be working with her on a lot of the book PR, and she has some great ideas already, and she'll be doing our social media posts and making sure those are optimized so that a lot of people see them. And actually, one of our staff members, Stacy Chansky, she's our recreation specialist. She had the bright idea the day I got the proof. She took it out to the free little library outside City Hall and made sure to get it in the picture for the scavenger hunt they're putting together, so that there's some PR that way too. So everybody's thinking of creative ways now to generate some buzz. I also have quarter size postcards back on that table. So if you want to grab a handful, maybe at a DAR meeting or any other organizations you're a part of, feel free. It has a QR code to the book website, which I have updated with some more recent information. So you can start spreading the word. And I think that's pretty much what I have for you this evening. I appreciate all the ideas that have been coming my way for book publicity. And I just ask your help in, getting the word out.
Is the county library system on your list for contacting? Because when their newsletter comes out each month, it lists all the new books that they have. So that would be a way of getting it on there as well.
They will definitely be receiving one of our donated copies. I'll reach out now and see if they can do a pre-published comment. If not, I'll definitely ask them to put something out once the
Good.
book has been published. Because that's how some of these institutions work.
Right.
Once the book's published, then they'll put it out in their.
Anyone else have comments or
newsletters.
questions?
I did.
I think we're all excited.
It could be bigger than just the book, but have we thought at all about, with the Village Green dedication, a potential Village Green time capsule? This book could probably be part of that.
We certainly can do that. And we are getting closer and closer to bidding out phase 1 of Village Green.
Good idea.
Great idea.
Madam Chair, if I
Yes.
could take liberty with the commission for just a couple of minutes. Given the book spans a period of time pre-1876, which memory serves, the city of St. Louis was not separated from St. Louis County per se. And so I think we ought to contact the city library district as well and ask them if they'd be interested in having it as part of their holdings. The other thing I'd just like to mention is success has many authors, and in this particular case, no pun intended. But I do want to thank the commission members starting back in 2015. They are the ones that grasped the concept that was suggested to them. They're also the ones that recommended that we spend funds, taxpayer funds, on the book, the authorship by Ms. von Gruben, and many, many other costs. So tonight, you benefit from the work of others, but you also were the ones that carried it home. So I want to thank you. And I'd be amiss. This is what I told many people over the course of the last few days. Without Ms. von Gruben, without Ms. Keefe, we might still be languishing as we were there for a couple of years due to COVID, but more so than anything, just the lack of a focused group of people, a small group in this case, to get it done. So I'm eternally indebted to them as well. So thank you all.
We thank you. Anyone else? Okay.
Joe, do we need action to move this forward or are we okay? We're okay. All right. Thank you.
The next item on our agenda is Madison Valley plaque update.
Has everyone had an opportunity to review the site visit summary and the photos associated with it? If not, I do have photos on a presentation that I can pull up. Would you like that? Yes. Okay. Okay, Madam Chair, members of the commission, on Monday of this week, befittingly on Juneteenth, members of this commission went out and visited a couple locations for potential locations for the Madison Valley Historic Marker that we have been discussing for several months now. The first location that we visited was the intersection of Spiceberry Lane and Madison Valley with Wild Horse Creek Road. Now, originally, we were thinking about a northern strip that the city had acquired as part of a bridge project, but almost immediately, and I'm hoping this is going to cycle. But almost immediately, we determined, and I might just move over to that microphone because then I can flip through this, but we determined that this location just south of the intersection was a much more desirable location to consider. So this is a clearer view of it. Basically, we're just looking at a 15-foot public right-of-way strip in front of these 4 trees as a potential location for the marker. It was discussed at the site visit that if we were to choose this location, we'd probably also be considering a pull-through parking pad to stop and view it. And there would also be piping that would need to be installed for drainage purposes as well. So there would be some infrastructure investments associated with this location. This is standing in that location just south of Spiceberry Lane and Wild Horse Creek Road. This is Wild Horse Creek Road. You can see where everybody's clustered up here at Spiceberry Lane, and there's that bridge. So that just gives you a sense of the surroundings in the other direction, and then just a closer view of that bridge. And the general reasoning for not choosing the 15-foot strip to the north of the bridge was just that there would be so much brush there to clear, whereas the other location was already cleared and viable. However, and I think several commissioners will agree, this was a very busy place to be that day. So then when we moved to our next location, I think there was kind of a large sigh of, but here we are looking within Babbler State Park. We met with Chris Ferrari. Okay. Park Superintendent. So here you can see the starred location along Worth Drive. It is Worth Drive within the park. And here you can see an equestrian trail kind of going through that same area. This is the location that we are considering in that area. So this is just to actually, you could hear Wild Horse Creek Road from this location. So here's that cleared pull-off area. And there's a view of it from the opposite direction. A lot of this vegetation here, the park superintendent said that it could be cleared if we were to move forward with this location and potentially very nicely landscaped. This is a meadow just across the street from that location. And then this here is a view of the old access road to a local quarry. So it was historically used for the quarry. And then, back through there too is that equestrian trail. And as we've noted at past meetings, this is also a location that's currently being discussed as a potential location for a future greenway that would connect the Monarch Levee Trail all the way to the Al Foster Memorial Trail. And so this marker, if in this location, would be a defining feature of that greenway trail. And so that's a real bonus. And so the park would, if we chose this location, the marker would be on the park maps at the visitor center. The park staff would be interpreting the history of the marker through its programs and social media posts. We talked about potentially having physical signage within the park, directing people to the marker and things of that nature. So they would help amplify the message a bit. They also noted that they're in the process of developing, there's a paved trail through the park right now, and I don't know the name of it, but it sounds like they're planning some historical signage, like interpretive displays, like flat displays along it. So there's opportunity for future interpretation that way as well. They just, Chris kept saying over and over again that he's just very happy to collaborate with us. This fits with their mission to tell some of this untold history as well. And they've just been very accommodating with the department. And it sounds like they're very, very open and ready to move forward if this commission were to choose that location. I think I have one more photo that just gives you the context. So that just kind of gives you a bigger picture of the area. So just, real nice and shady, and people can pull off pretty easily and spend some time there reading the marker and enjoying the serenity of the location. So there's my presentation. I do need a couple things from this commission regarding it. One, of course, we need to choose our location for the historic marker, but also I need you to approve the minutes of the site visit summary as well. Thank you.
Okay, comments and questions? Rob?
Sure, as usual. First of all, this was Ms. Keith's brainstorm to potentially put it here in the park. It could not be a better location, in my humble opinion. I just think it's great. Everything about it works. The access road, the cooperation of the state, all those kinds of things. The only thing that I would, and so I'm going to make a motion if it's appropriate to move forward with that site. But the one thing I wanted to just throw out there on the table, and hopefully you can either shoot me down or agree. The timeline here has the final proof finished in November, and we're hoping to install it in December. I would suggest maybe we could put the finished plaque in the lobby for a few months until we have beautiful weather and install it in the spring when it might be better attended, maybe even on Juneteenth or something like that. I mean, we can get too cute with it, but it might be an opportunity for folks in the community to see it because it'll be in the rotunda of City Hall. And then, maybe we can have more of a celebration out there at the appropriate time when everything's green instead of everything being dead. So just a suggestion.
Well,
Dan?
or September. In the fall. Better sooner than later.
I don't think we
Well,
can get-
just note, it does take time
No,
for
I
them
know.
to fabricate the signage and it has to go through the review process. So I think this was the absolute soonest
Quickest.
we could
Okay.
do it, but certainly, if that was the direction city council wanted to go with the marker, then
I just think I've seen us squeezed before and we never make the first ambitious target date. And so why not plan on more folks in the community seeing it and doing it when things are green. That's really the idea.
Jim?
I would like to second, or not second, but I would agree that this is probably the best place for it, because why go through all this if hardly anybody's going to see it? I think people traveling Wild Horse Creek Road are generally the residents who live on that road.
They're on a mission.
Yeah, and they're, zoom, zoom, they're getting home or going to work. In the park, especially with the cooperation and the resources of the state, I think we hit a larger audience. And I was amazed at how really close we were to where we were previous, and, they could, depending upon how aggressive they want to get with clearing, I just think this is an ideal place. And I'm elated that I realized that Babler Park is in Wild. I mean, that's a real jewel. And, not Ellisville, not Manchester. So I would be a promoter of that location.
Anyone else? Rob, would you like to put that location in a form of a motion?
Yeah, do we need to vote on the minutes first, Robin, or either order? I move that we approve the minutes of the site visit first.
Okay. Second. Second. Dan? Any other discussion? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Anyone opposed, say no. It has passed.
So my motion, main motion would be on the order of choosing the park location for the marker. And I don't know how to fit in that. My suggestion, I don't know if it has any other support or not. My suggestion to maybe plan on June or a summer unveiling. And in the meantime, make sure we have the marker and put it in the rotunda. Is there a reasonable, does anybody else think that's a good idea, or is it just me?
I think it's a good idea, but I don't think that ought to be part of the motion. I think the motion ought to be on the location.
Okay.
And then
So-
we can.
So
Agree.
that's my motion then, that we choose this location.
And I'll second.
Jim is seconding it. Any other discussion on the location? All those in favor say yes.
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 Anyone opposed, say no. The location has passed.
thank you. I do have a second sub item under the same item. So the park, since we are choosing to work with the park staff on this Babler location, they did offer up some suggestions to our verbiage, which I have included in your packets this evening. I will say that Mr. Ferrari did say that he did not believe we needed to eliminate the locational information that we had included because he felt like, that was firmly establishing where the marker originated from. So that's just his thoughts. But the park would like to go with the term formerly enslaved persons wherever possible. If this commission were to accept that. Oh, and then additionally, I also included in your packet that a resident or a woman reached out to us who has a background and is working on a project researching enlistees in the United States colored troops from this area. She's going through enrollment records with St. Louis County and verifying it. So she's going to have a full list of enlistees by mid-July or so that she would like to offer this commission to either potentially list all of these names on the marker, or she also suggested that if that's not a viable solution, she suggested maybe having a QR code and then listing all those names on the website so that, someone could go straight there from the marker. But I did want to note that we were contacted by her, and I did discuss this with Mr. Ferrari earlier today too. And, he didn't think that changed anything from the park's perspective. So I would just offer those changes up to this commission. And if, depending on your direction, I'll go ahead and make those edits.
A discussion on that. Yes, Dan.
Or maybe just reading of the names at the dedication.
Great idea.
The new language that was proposed are the edits to the original marker. Is that what's here? This is the state?
State edits, it is like it's a Missouri state. It was that we could not. That's so don't that. It just help.
Your
They
comments on
don't
this.
like connecting Madison Valley.
I have a feeling that that edit was made more to clean it up than anything else. We do mention Madison Valley towards the end of that marker verbiage, so it is being mentioned twice. But again, Mr. Ferrari apparently had a different opinion about it, and nothing is, the state didn't have strong feelings about anything they suggested.
Why did he want to eliminate Madison Valley? Just eliminate verbiage about it, or just some of it?
So Madison Valley was actually mentioned twice in this verbiage. So including many who had previously worked the large hemp plantations at present day Madison Valley, named in honor of Elijah Madison and Wild Horse Creek Road area. So that's the first mention. And then at the end, it says many of these men returned to the area after the war as farmers and community leaders and are buried in Mount Pleasant Baptist Church Cemetery, not far from Madison Valley. I think the first line probably, makes it clearer, the tie-in, I think, to Madison Valley. And that was Mr. Ferrari's concern. He actually voiced that his opinion was differing from what came back from the Cultural Resources Division. Whereas the other one just says they were buried not far from Madison Valley, which doesn't really give you that historical tie-in.
And that's the whole reason we started down this.
Yes, so I think that's why it was made very clear to me that we don't have to accept all of these edits. I think his primary concern was the formerly enslaved persons. And then he made it clear to me that he didn't feel like we needed to make that other edit that we just discussed.
The second mention almost necessitates the first, though, because
Yeah.
it just comes out of nowhere. Like, what's Madison Valley? How did this happen?
And it's
I mean-
Madison Valley Road.
No, I
Just
yep,
Madison Valley.
Madison Valley.
Okay.
It's the whole
It might be confused.
Yeah,
Are you looking for a valley?
and that's what I mean. It needs some kind of introduction.
I say leave it.
When do we want to get into this verbiage tonight, or is this?
I'm just looking for big picture. Do you accept the formerly enslaved persons terminology? One, should we go ahead and leave in that line? Two, and then number three, what do you feel about, these additional names that might be listed on the marker, and how do we want to handle that? So I would say those are the three directions I'm looking for this evening, and then the department can take this draft back and do. the
Didn't you
final.
also mention that we probably would have to go to the back, depending on the length of the list that this lady may provide for us? And that adds additional cost.
In time.
That is correct. I am not certain how many names she will produce through this project. It might be doable. We might be able to do it on one side of the marker. It might require two sides of the marker. It might, we might consider a QR code in the website. We might just read the names at the unveiling ceremony. But my feeling is that maybe tonight we just agree that it's worth knowing everyone who enlisted in this area. So it's worth collaborating on this project. And then we can ultimately make a decision on that once we have that list. So I don't know that I need a decision on it. I just need maybe an agreed, like, yeah, this is worth pursuing.
The
Consensus.
person that's coming up. Why? Mess our timeline up for getting the plaque made.
I don't believe so. It's probably going to dictate how I schedule the public information meeting, because I think we want that list in order to know who all to contact for that meeting, and also, to have available at that meeting. So we'd probably be looking at that public information meeting in late July. But I do think this information is probably worth having as we move forward on this effort. I mean, it's better that we do this right instead of in a hurried way, especially if we're talking about potentially delaying the unveiling.
So the edit that you're looking at here, the big picture, you said, are we okay with the state's locally, formerly enslaved men? Is that?
Yes, we're just going to change the term. Are you okay with the department using its judgment to change that terminology? I think I'm hearing from the commission that we want to leave in the tie-in to Madison Valley. But ultimately, I'm just going to redraft this language, taking into account some of these suggestions, and then I will send an email out to this commission.
So all they've done is it says which allowed enslaved men to emancipate through enlistment, even without owner's consent. Local. I want to say mean locally.
Mhm.
Locally, like where it says local formerly
It says
enslaved.
local, comma. I believe that word should be locally. The enslaved men, like, I have no problem with that. I just think that word local is not correct.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Okay. Well, what I suggest to this commission is I think I have some general consensus as far as the big picture items. But if you have any specific edits, or if there's any of this verbiage that you want to specifically make comments about, why don't you send me an email over this next week, and I can use those comments then as I redraft this for you.
if we can tie it to very specific people who served. I don't want to make it more work than we already have, but it may necessitate or could support a monument with state support. So all of a sudden, it's not a plaque anymore. It's a monument that is dedicated to the people who served, and it's a little pyramid deal like they have in many state parks that talk about the people that served in specific wars. Would the state be interested in stepping this up a notch?
And we can
Then you have all the
always,
room you need.
we can always ask them.
Aha moment is, I don't know how many people understood that there was a United States colored troops. I think that might just be more of our historic preservation of getting that out. How we do it, we can discuss it.
Madam Chair, in response to Commissioner Routen's statement, I would prefer, or I would recommend that we look at a two-sided marker, keeping with the style we've chosen versus starting over.
Yeah, I think as everyone else said, we need to locate Madison Valley because the last sentence, as Alan suggested, just doesn't cut it. So I'm happy to leave it to your discretion. I would say that reading the names at dedication is a great idea. I also love, and I was planning to suggest a QR code on a separate sign because technology changes. But that gives anybody with a phone a wealth of information that's directly applicable, and people can sit there and surf for half an hour if they like. I think it's a really, really powerful idea. My only finally, local, formerly enslaved men, all enlisted. There's the same thing as saying formerly enslaved local men.
Yes.
And so we can just change it that way and make everybody happy from Jim on down. And that would be my only editing suggestion. And my final thought is if we're going to go to a two-sided monument, can we fit in a small map of the area to truly locate Madison Valley, which might kind of help with our editing problem. If we have the real estate on the bronze, we might as well do that. So that's my suggestion.
Yeah, I think what they really want to say is if we took out local and formerly, both, those two words, and began that sentence with enslaved men, like it's really much more appropriate and more accurate.
Well, my thing is, until they joined, they were enslaved, so they weren't formerly enslaved.
Yeah.
That is a good point.
Mhm.
And I also like Rob's idea about putting a map on there, because again, my concern before is we're getting a little disconnected from where this whole started. I think the idea of a map is a good idea.
All right, so if I may, I will take this verbiage back. I will take in to account all that we've discussed this evening in producing a new draft for you. It sounds like we're in agreement that this project for obtaining a list of all the enlistees from our area and taking that offer of assistance is probably worthwhile and may dictate the direction of the marker as we go into discussions for it next month. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Then I thank you for your feedback. As I noted, that will probably push back the schedule just a little bit, which I think we can accommodate because especially given our council member's suggestion, And I also think I built in some extra room for the needed time for fabrication as well. So I do think we have another month to make sure that this is right. And I think having that list will help us as we go into the public information meeting, because then we'll make sure that everybody who needs to be there to have that input is there. So, all right. Thank you so much for your discussion on this item this evening. And I'm very excited that we have a location.
I'm just thinking ahead a little bit towards Celebrate Wildwood in our displays. Would it be possible, you think, to have some type of a mock-up of this with the other marker information that we always have on display so that we could be talking to people about it?
In graphics, the company we've used for these markers did exactly that when we were presenting the concept to different groups, particularly city council. So yes, I think they have the capability to do exactly that.
Good. Okay, anything else on this one? Okay. Westland Acres, I think that's Joe.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Madam Chair and members of the commission, tonight the department is presenting for your consideration and endorsement a letter I would like to send to Pastor Fields. In the memorandum, the draft is presented. It identifies Pastor Fields. It talks about the conversation the department had with Pastor Fields and what we would like to do in terms of this project with the community. Therefore, tonight, if there are any modifications, comments, or changes, the department would be glad to accept them. It would like an endorsement of it so we can proceed forward and get it to Pastor Fields. And then he'll begin his work getting the group of community leaders together so our small subcommittee and them can meet. Thank you.
Comments on this one?
Is Westland Acres, is that the West family? Westland, is that where it got its derivation?
That's my understanding, sir.
Robin?
Madam Chair, I apologize because I have a feeling this attendee wanted to speak on the last item, but maybe she'll have some comments on this one as well. But we do have Ms. Clark raising her hand to speak if you would like to hear it.
We're ready.
Okay. Ms. Clark, I am promoting you to panelist.
Now can you hear me? Hi, guys. Can you hear me?
You don't hear her.
Maybe I'll sign.
Councilmember Clark, you can be heard now, but we did not hear you before.
Thanks. Yeah, it was the last the last topic, if I may make a comment on that.
Yes.
Madam Chair, thank you. I just wanted to mention that possibly when you get the wording for the plaque completed, that you might want to take it to maybe the police colonel of the county, or the Lieutenant Colonel Doyle. They're both Black leaders of the community. And I just really think it needs to have to be approved within the Black community, and not just from what we decide is the right wording. Just a comment.
Yes, Joe.
Madam Chair, to Mrs. Clark's comment, Captain Mundell, the commander of the precinct, has already begun that process with Colonel Gregory, chief of the St. Louis County Police Department. And Colonel Gregory has the context of the text with him now, and certainly we're awaiting any comments he may have. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Madam Chair, back to the draft letter I'd like to send to Pastor Fields. Is there any comments? If not, I would respectfully request a motion second endorsing the language and getting it out either tomorrow or the beginning of next week.
Rob,
I'll make that motion.
Second,
Alan seconds. Any more discussion on that? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed say no. The motion has passed.
Thank you. The next item,
We're back to Westland Acres now.
actually, that's just what
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
actually, I think that's what the commission just voted on,
Okay.
unless I'm mistaken, I believe.
Number 6 on mine is update on Westland Acres. I'm still over here. I'm still under business. Okay. So you want to go on to the memorial tribute before Westland Acres? Or there was nothing else on Westland Acres?
There was nothing else on Westland
Okay, thank
Acres
you.
at this time. And with the chair's permission, just an update on Ms. Sam's nomination to the city's Memorial Tribute Program. The recommendation of the Historic Preservation Commission was presented to City Council at its meeting this June. The City Council endorsed it unanimously, and so the department will begin the process with family members of Ms. Sam to do the appropriate steps to formulate the recommendation and have the items noted as part of her, as
Could
part
you
of.
move closer to your mic, please?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
There you go.
Madam Chair and members of the commission, the city council endorsed the nomination of Judy Sam for the recommendation of the commission. And we, as staff department, will now proceed forward with completing the task associated with it. If there are any questions, the department would be glad to answer them. Thank you.
So we had, as a commission, approved going forward with both Paul, Judy, and Mr. Thompson. So we do not need another motion on that, correct?
No, and Madam Chair and members of the commission, Mr. Thompson will actually be bringing that back in a bit of time. We're working with Mr. Wojciechowski's nomination and now Mr. Sam. So we're kind of wanting to get those completed before we move to the third. Thank you.
Program.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, most of these items we have touched on this evening. However, I'll give you a quick update as far as our Essen Log Cabin project. The contract will actually be going before City Council in July now. So just note it will be coming back next month for further activity. Other than that, the department is available for questions on any of these items.
Business.
Anything else? Anyone have any comments on these? Okay. And, Celebrate Wildwood History Tent.
All right, Madam Chair, members of the commission, we are getting out ahead of Celebrate Wildwood this year. And of course, the reason we are doing that is because we have our exciting book launch to plan. So It's really important, I think, that more than ever that we're planning ahead as we go into the event. Celebrate Wildwood this year will mark the city's 28th anniversary. I have the tentative schedule before you in this packet. It is so early, an official schedule has not been approved yet, but this is taken from last year, just to give you a sense. We do have the 80s band will be the main concert, will be at the main concert venue. And as usual, we will have our city history tent. However, as noted at our last meeting, it will be a little different this year in that we will be situated right next to the Wildwood Historical Society with the book tent in between, and we'll be conducting those book sales. I have been working with our graphic designer. She is moving forward with designing our 3 banners. So we will have our own official Historic Preservation Commission banner for this year and future years. And we'll also have a really nice book banner as well for the book tent. And then the Wildwood Historical Society will also benefit. However, as usual, we have a lot to display in our history tent. And so I have listed some of those items here. Obviously, we'll be selling our book, and I think we'll want to keep a huge focus towards that activity. However, we now have 2 awards to display as a commission, along with all of our other displays. We have the points of interest map to continue to deliver, and we'll touch on that in the next item. We'll have information about the Essen Log Cabin, and I'm sure quite a few questions as we go into its reconstruction. And as usual, I do think that the children's activities are important. I've noticed even through last year's engagement that the word searches, it's an opportunity to kind of grab the families over to the history tent, because you're like word search for their kids, and then they start looking around and feeling comfortable in the space. So I actually thought it was a pretty great engagement tool in terms of just getting people to come over and explore. Anyway, all of these items are listed for your review. And of course, we'll want to talk about the parade, but we'll stick with the tent first. Is there anything we're missing as far as what we need to think about at the city history tent this year? Okay, seeing none. We can talk about the parade. As noted at the last meeting, there is interest in having a Wildwood history book parade float to help promote the publication and celebrate it. I suppose at this point, I would just offer up the department's assistance in that regard. You tell us what you need. I believe we do have some potential trailers that could be used to assist. The department will explore, a large size poster of the book to put on a float. You just tell me what dimensions you want and I'll start doing the recon. But what can we do to help facilitate that?
Last year they had golf carts.
Mhm.
Is that a possibility?
Well, again, this year we will have golf carts available for city council members, for the Wildwood Celebration Commission, and our grand marshals, which will be the 9 honorees that are associated with the Hometown Heroes banner program. We also have extra carts in anticipation of the participation of the commission in the book sale. And so certainly if you all want, we have a couple of 4-seaters, so obviously that's an option. But just let us know what you're thinking in terms of the parade and your participation, as Ms. Keefe mentioned, and we'll do what we can to accommodate it.
That now.
If you'd like to discuss it at the committee meeting, I think that's a great opportunity to discuss it. And you can also just send me emails because if I know what you're thinking, I can start doing the research for it.
I thought it was 2:30. That's what Came
It
out.
is at 2:30. I don't know why. I think the last meeting was in the morning, so it was just in my head that way. But I think you're right. It is at 2:30 in the afternoon tomorrow. I apologize.
So when I made the suggestion at the last meeting, I was thinking of, there's a name for it. It's real thick foam insulation that they use sometimes around foundations for frost lines. I was just thinking if however big it comes, like 4 feet by 8 feet or 4 feet by 6 feet or something, we would use the largest portion of that and then proportionally do an 8.5 by 11 exploded, and then get a graphic design for the cover. It just doesn't have to be front back. It all depends what we want to spend on. And that represents the book. And then that would be held. And that's why I was just thinking of a golf cart. We could either affix it to the top or have it carried on with, somebody holding it. But that was the original intent.
Yeah, I think we just keep discussing that and we'll see what we can do.
See.
We need to work together.
Well, yeah, but we're
Okay. Well, you just let me know when you are ready. We can brainstorm tomorrow, and then when you do have a plan, just send me an email and we can start seeing, start exploring what it's going to take to put it all together.
Madam Chair, if I may,
Yes.
to that subcommittee of members that are working on the parade. Obviously, we can accommodate a golf court. We'll make that available if you prefer that. As Ms. Keefe mentioned, there's a number of individuals in town that have small trailers and tractors. There's ATVs. So whatever when you come up with your ideas and don't feel like you're bound by a particular mode of transportation. We have many. And as Ms. Keefe mentioned, we'll do what we can to help.
All right. Any other ideas for Celebrate Wildwood and our big book launch?
I'm sorry, I just saw another text. I try to stay off my phone, but Ms. Clark had her hand raised at 7:42. And it's only, I think that's after her last input. I'm not really sure. So maybe we should check with her again and see if maybe I'll just text her. Hang on. Still there.
Ms. Clark, if you would like to comment, please raise your hand.
Oh, she said she's done.
Okay.
So, happened to see it. I should have.
Okay, then
Thank you.
the only final thing I would just emphasize is please save the date for Celebrate Wildwood this year. This is a big one for us, and we really would love to have all hands on deck. So September 23, 2023, and I will send out the volunteer sheet a little closer to the event, but please put this on your calendars. Thank you.
Okay. Then we'll move on to the update to the points of interest map.
All right. Speaking of Celebrate Wildwood, last year our big foldable travel map version of the points of interest map was very popular. We gave out a lot of maps at the event. We gave it to the Wildwood Hotel. We gave it to the Route 66 State Park, Babbler State Park. We put it in new resident packets all year long. We put it in event bags for when we had city events and people were picking up their t-shirts. They also got a map. It's been selling like hotcakes. And when I say selling, I mean just disappearing from the lobby of City Hall. And I think by the time we get to our Celebrate Wildwood event this year, we'll probably be down to less than 200 copies. So that said, the department is ordering another 2,000 maps. That was the most cost-effective quantity because there's basically a base cost and then it's really cheap to print after that base cost. And since we're going to go ahead and order another 2,000 maps, we're thinking we might want to update the one that we have. And the following updates are what we're thinking. And of course, you are free to offer your own suggestions, but we're thinking we should add the Essen Log Cabin to it now that we have a location determined. Last year, we did not yet have a location, so it didn't make sense to add it. We now have a location for the Madison Valley marker, so we could potentially add that to the map. Let's see, we need to update our Wildwood history book image to reflect the final cover of the book and update any information associated with that. So that'll continue to be an advertisement for our book. And then just some minor corrections to last year's version. Is there anything I'm missing as far as some big picture updates that we should make?
Probably wouldn't add them until we're ready. I mean, the cabin's not going to be, when's it going to be done, Joe?
Based upon the contractual components with Pattern and Knives not being completed till July, my guess is now that it's a 2024 project. But I think all Ms. Keefe is saying is we've selected the location of Village Green. And
I mean, are people going to be driving around looking at monuments and then coming to a bare field saying, where is it?
there's certainly a chance of that, yes.
Sign out it's coming.
Well, presently we have Village Green also on our map, and we just said that, phase 1 is expected to be completed and, X date. So I think we'd probably do something similar with the cabin that we're anticipating 2024.
Not a big deal.
Yeah, I think we just make it clear that it's not there yet. Any other thoughts? That's all we have on that subject. Thank you very much.
We've had a lot on our plates this evening, and I think we've made a lot of progress. So I want to personally thank each of you for all your thoughts because they mean a lot. No other matters for consideration on our agenda. So I would entertain a motion for, yes.
Madam Chair, I just want to emphasize that our meeting next month is on a Wednesday, because I just don't want anyone to get confused that we're talking about the third Wednesday of the month instead of the fourth Thursday. So just please, plant that in your heads. Wednesday of next month, we will be meeting for our for Historic
July
Preservation
19th.
Commission. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and a motion for adjournment.
So move.
Alan has moved. Dan has seconded. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed, no. Then that motion has passed. And I have a closing thought. Keep our flag flying. It is historic preservation. Have a good month. We are adjourned.